action. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Show and Tell. I'm Billy, and I'm your host. I'm coming to you from Manhattan in the heart of New York City, where the pandemic is still unfortunately going strong, but people are starting to get vaccinated. So I'm hoping it won't be long before we can all gather around our hearth and knit together once again. In the meantime, you can certainly go over to Instagram and follow me there, or Ravelry. My handle is billietoy, and I'll put that on the screen. In my last episode, I inadvertently, when I did the editing, I omitted an entire clip. I was trying to tell you about some of the features of YouTube, in particular the subtitles. And how to use them and how to get different languages if English is not your native tongue. So I'm going to insert that missing clip here. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, go back to the prior episode. I'll give a link up here.
That at the bottom of the screen, you never know which side, it's going to be your lower right-hand corner. There are a couple of symbols which will help you to maybe have a better viewing experience. For one thing, there's a little button that says CC, which stands for closed captioning. That will give you subtitles. However, I know some of my viewers are in other countries where English is not their preferred language or their native tongue. So just next to CC, you'll see a little picture of a gear. If you click on that, it pops up a menu, and one of the items in that menu is subtitles. And if you click that, you can select from dozens and dozens of other languages.
Last time we met, I told you that this was going to be my year of finishing things first. And in general, I do plan on doing that. I had shown you in particular one sweater that was in progress, which is called Thelma Viscountess Furness, which is my own design. That's the back. And I have completed one shoulder. Let me back up. This will be half of the V-neck and part of the sleeve. And the mirror image of that, I'm almost done. I have about 5 more rows on here, so that's well underway. And then the lower part of the front that will join up to this has been complete for a while. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. I am so far carrying on with my pledge of trying to finish things first. Of course, the temptation of casting on and starting something new that you've been waiting to do for such a long time is always looming in the background, and I'm not good with temptation. When it comes to chocolates and sweets, I cave easily, and I guess when it comes to casting on, I'm in the same boat. So the project that I've been waiting to do for so long was this Mary Maxim pattern that was gifted to me by one of my prior guests, which was very sweet of Michelle Mark to do. And just a quick little thing without divulging a lot, there's interesting way the charts are done in here. I'm going to insert a clip here of the first yarn that I purchased for it, which unfortunately, I think my computer screen, the color resolution wasn't what it might be. The colors looked nothing like what I saw in my computer. The pumpkin was really orange. The color daffodil was really like very bright yellow, and I didn't think those were going to be good colors for me. I really was looking for pumpkin.
I received my yarn today for my Mary Maxim project, and it's funny that they put it in this color envelope because I have a feeling that the yarn is going to be this kind of color. But I wanted to do an unpackaging with you. So here I am using those famous elk vintage 1950s scissors that belong to my mother, Pearl. You're going to get to know her, if you don't already, from my talking about her. And yes, here's a free plug for LoveCrafts. I just love them because I love these bags. I love these bags that they send everything in, this mesh bag. It's such a great project bag. So here we are. Yay! It's Cascade 128, bulky. And this color is called Jet. I think it's called Jet. It's not exactly black. It's a really like charcoaly color. I'll check on the colorway name. And then there's this. Oh boy, I forget the name of that. But a bunch of those. And then this was supposed to be pumpkin. It looks very orangey to me. So those are my colors. I'm not sure that I love them, but we'll see. So as you will recall, I had ordered yarn and was disillusioned with the colors when I saw them. It's so hard. I don't know if the rest of you find this. Maybe you'll comment below. It's so hard to know what the true colors are going to be. Everybody's computer screen renders the colors differently. So I went back to my favorite yarn company, Sandnes Garn, represented in the States by Mother Knitter. I'll put their info on the screen. And because I've been waiting so long to start this project, I decided to order yarn for 2 different projects. By the way, I ordered this yesterday morning at before 8 a.m. It arrived today around 12:30 in the afternoon. I didn't know that they had shipped it priority, and there's this whole big label on here. I never saw this before. I'll hold it up so you can see this. I don't know what this is about. It's something to do with the priority shipping. Anyway, that's that, but here we go. This is for the Mary Maxim pattern that I talked about. And also for another sweater that we haven't discussed yet. Thank you for your order. Please follow us on Instagram, blah, blah. That's very nice. Okay. Okay, color number 1. This will be the main body, sort of a pumpkin color. It's more like what I was hoping for, not orange. Olive green. And brown. So the type of yarn is Fritz Garn. And the colors, I'll have to put the exact colors on the screen. This is 4071, 3044, and 9336. But I'll tell you what the names are called. I think it's pumpkin and olive green, and I forget what the exact name of the brown is. This is 100% Norwegian wool. So I'm guessing that is not superwash, which is terrific. Okay, so there's a sweater's quantity of that in here. Plus, there's yarn for another sweater, and this is Duo in white, and there's a marine blue should be in here. Yeah. Now, hold on a second. I'm going to go and get the hat. One sec. Okay, this is totally a separate project. I bought this little hat. I don't know if you're able to see this. There we go. So I'm hoping that it's not exact. It's hard to get navies exact, just like it's hard to get blacks or white exact. But I think it's going to be good. In time, this will probably change color, just as this hat has. This hat's been kicking around for, I don't know, 70 years or so. 70 years from now, this will look like that. Okay, that is my unboxing. I'm really excited. Thank you, Lori, for getting this out to me, and be on the lookout for new cast on. I assume that you'll remember me showing you this handbag at some point. So I'm really pleased with how that's working out. And I think I also showed the belt, the tooled leather belt, and the horsey pin. So I'm really happy with these. It was worth the wait to get colors that are really right for my project.
I did a little bit of a swatch and I thought the fabric was too loose. So I went down a full needle size. Of course, I don't have the exact yarn that this vintage pattern is calling for. But in any event, I swatched just a little bit so I could get a feel for, you know, was it giving me a fabric that I liked? And then I just took the plunge and I started knitting right into the sleeve. I thought, let me try that. I've heard other people talk about doing their sleeve first, because at least the time that you're spending knitting is moving your project forward. So right away I could see with the cuff and with my first few rows beyond the ribbing that I was getting gauge and I liked the fabric. So I continued on. The pattern has these diamond shapes, so it's intarsia. I'm not having floats across the back, except for this section. This one I did Pharaoh with a little bit of floats. They tell you to start a separate ball of yarn for this side and this side. So that's already two that you have going up the whole sleeve. And then this color is a third ball. And then for the center one, they recommend yet another ball. But that's as much as it got to be so far. After I finished the green, I just cut the yarn. I didn't carry it up to the next green. I thought it'd be less bulky. This is a chunky yarn, so it already has a thickness to it. I know it's going to be heavy. It's an outer sweater. I think that I will put the zipper in as the pattern calls for. So kind of like a little bomber jacket shape. And as you can see, the front has two horse heads on it. I'll also insert a picture here. I know I've shown it before, but just to refresh your memory, how Julianne Moore was wearing this sweater in a film called Shipping News with Kevin Spacey. And when Michelle Marks saw this, she said, oh, the picture of Julianne Moore, she's wearing a child's sweater. Mary Maxim makes a pattern similar to this in adult sizes, but it's not this. It's a different horse design. And I really like this with the horse on the back and these two horse heads. So I am modifying the children's pattern, hopefully to fit me, which meant lengthening the sleeves, and it's going to mean widening the fronts and the back and probably the collar as well. So here's what I've got so far. I'm on a size 8 needle, chunky yarn. This took me a day. It's such a far cry from this, which is on, oh, sorry, that's the inside. Yarn not woven in yet. This is on such a fine needle. I think I'm on a number 3 needle here with, I think it's lace weight. I don't even think it's fingering weight. Might be fingering, but there's a lot of stitches here. Not so many here. This goes really fast, and I am totally, totally enjoying having results come so quickly. You know, there's that instant gratification with this. I was so excited to just cast on and zip, start knitting right up. So I just wanted to put out, you know, a quick little video for you. I hope you were able to catch part of the fashion show of Vogue Knitting Live. As I'm sure you're aware, the January Vogue Knitting Live event, which takes place in Manhattan, a couple of miles from where I live, of course, like everything else, was canceled for this year. But they did a virtual fashion show, and that's why I'm dressed in this sweater. I know you've seen this one before, but I was modeling in the fashion show. So we always talk about my accessories. These two necklaces have an interesting story. I bought them at the same time. It's some kind of a nut from Africa. If you know what kind of nut it is, perhaps you can comment. And these, I believe, are the shells of ostrich eggs. They're very thick. It's not like American Indian jewelry, he, she, which is very fine shell. This is starting from a very thick shell. If you've never seen an ostrich egg, they're about this big. They're quite large. So these are hand carved down. And then there's steel beads in here, which are probably also handmade by someone in Africa. And these are hand carved. So years ago, 1983, I traveled around Africa for 9 weeks. And when I was in Kenya, I was in a small van with a couple of other tourists. And we stopped at some kind of a gate, an entry gate to something. And it was a place, I guess, where other tourist vehicles pass through. So the locals all come running over to the vehicle with all kinds of things draped over their arm. Madame, Madame, you know, buy my necklace. So I didn't have a small bill, and I didn't want to give the guy a large bill and have him go away with it to make change. So I said, leave the necklaces with me and go get change and come back to me. And then I'll give you my big bill in exchange for the change. I think that we pulled off before he ever came back. And I felt so terrible about it. And the people who were in the van with me made it into such a big joke. They were laughing because I'm from New York. And they were like, oh, you New Yorker, you know, you got the better of them. You hoodwinked them. Oh, well. I do have these, and I've I've worn them off and on over the years. So I thought because I have a little bit of an exotic, it's not really a leopard print, but some kind of an animal print going on here, that it kind of lends itself to something a little primitive. And these earrings, let me take this off and show you up close. This is called leopard skin agate. So it has the same kind of flavor, same type of patterning as the ruffles. I don't know if I talked about this sweater before. I've worn it. This was a sweater from a Vogue Knitting magazine from 2012. A friend of mine has a collection of all the vintage Vogue magazines, if you want to call that vintage. I mean, besides the current one, she's got back issues. And I was flipping through one day looking to see what these patterns are like, and I came across this. And so here's a copy of the page from the magazine. In all the years I'm knitting, I have never knit anything in exactly the yarn or colors shown in pattern. But I liked this so much, I really wanted to try and replicate it. So I attempted to purchase the Debbie Bliss yarn that the pattern called for, because I guess the dye lots from 12 years ago were different from what they are today. When the yarn arrived, it wasn't quite this silvery gray. It was more like a mushroom color. So I tried a different yarn, which turned out to be very, very similar to the original yarn, but here's a bit of it. It's really lovely. It's almost like cashmere. It's so soft. It's Millamia. Here's the ball band from Sweden. 100% wool, naturally soft, extra fine merino. And then this stuff, which makes up the ruffles, very unusual. And I really didn't know how to use it. The ball band for this from Tecido Trico has instructions on the back. I couldn't make heads or tails of it. I was fortunate to find someplace on YouTube where a couple different people had knit with it. It wasn't exactly the way that the pattern called for, so I finally figured out something that I think works. There's several rows of that fabric here and more rows here. You might remember me talking about shopping for this toggle. So I went to a trim shop in the garment district in New York to get this little toggle because the pattern showed that, and the pattern calls for this loop. So I wanted to get something that would fit right through that loop. The saga of this garment is that when I first knit it, the sleeves were really gigantic. They're still roomy, but the sleeves were really, really too large, and it was overpowering for me. It made me look even bigger than I am. But now I'm happy. Set in sleeve, and it's nice and cozy. I'm very happy with it. So that's all for this time around. I am continuing to work on some of the things I showed you last time, so that this will be my year to finish things first before casting on new. I did cheat a little and I bought yarn. Besides this, I bought yarn for yet another project, but I will not start that. I haven't even purchased the pattern yet. I will not start that until this is assembled. With that, I'm going to bid you adieu. See you next time. I hope everybody is staying well and staying safe. Bye.